Hey guys, it's Ellen and welcome to my channel. Today's Friday, so we do Floral Friday on Fridays. Not always, but most of the time. I'm working on some expressive spring florals for you to paint today. It's a watercolor practice. I show you how I paint them with one particular brush, and then we use two brushes. It's a step-by-step also, so no need for any kind of traceable whatsoever on this one. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Also, please don't forget to hit the bell notification button to know when my tutorial's up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Also, check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, a live stream on the top tier, as well as a download from me. It's just a place people go and support my channel, which I appreciate so much. If you have any questions about it, want to look at the tiers, you can just check it out right here. Boop. In a second, the little thing will pop up and you can check it out. So, without further ado, let's get painting. Okay guys, for this tutorial I'm going to go over my supplies. We have a different paper today. We have an 8x10 piece of Strathmore watercolor. It's a travel pad they have. It's 100% cotton. I was gifted this from them. But I have a link to this in the description box to Amazon where you can get this. They have 12 sheets, and it's like $12 for 12 sheets, which is half the price of Arches paper. Obviously the difference between the two papers. Arches has a nice tooth, and it's really great for soaking up really wet on wet. And this is just a little different. I mean, it's cotton. It's going to lay on the top of the paper more. It's not going to do this great bleed that you would get in Arches. You can't lift up the color like you can in Arches paper. This is just a higher quality paper. You see how this one's a little bit darker color. It's more cream than white. This is cream also, but this is much creamier. More natural paper and just a higher quality paper. Although this paper, the Strathmore, says it's made in the United States, but it has a materials from France. So it's got a little French in it. You know, the Arches is from France. So they make great paper there. I'll be playing around with this. I don't even know where I got this brush, but I want you guys to play around with some other kind of brushes. This is a flat wash brush on an angle, and you don't really necessarily need to have one that's on an angle. You can have one that's straight. This is like 3/8 of an inch, and it just says 3/8 inch Germany on it. I don't know where I got it, but it's obviously just a cheap watercolor brush. Got a little bit of mess of gouache on there. And I will be using my Princeton 8 for little accents. I have my palette, my paper towels, water jars are up here. In the palette, as always, the same colors I use. Always, they're always in the description box, but I'll go over them. I have Prussian blue, ultramarine blue. Neutral tint is actually a color. People are like, what is this neutral tint? It's actually a color that a Patreon gifted me, which I love. She said I would love it, and I do. Burnt umber, peacock blue, cadmium yellow, deep. I have quinacridone magenta here, but I'm probably not using that today. Right here I put a little bit of this bright rose luminous, which I like. And over here we have this cadmium red light, trying to fit everything in here. And down here's like my messy part where I put the gouache. Now people ask about setting up a palette. Generally you keep your blues kind of in the same family. I don't know why this one got split up, but it's just the way it happened. The blue would have been up here, so I would have done, or the blacks can be at the end. So maybe just think of like a rainbow. You know, the darkest going to the lightest. So you can do it like that, or you just throw it in any way you want. It's kind of how I play. So this paper is a different type of paper. Like I said, the painting is going to be a different technique of flow. I did show a very detailed long tutorial on Patreon where I show this kind of bouquet and you see how you do that. But it's really simple to use this paper. We could practice first on a piece right here. The difference between this paper and Arches is like I said, it's going to lay. It's not going to bleed as much. I'll just grab some of this bright pink here. So with this brush, before we start to paint, we're going to practice twisting the brush and using the brush. Strokes, you can go like this. See? And also See, I'm just doing the simple strokes, like pulling it down, just pulling it down. It's a little bright pink. See how it's kind of sitting on the top of the paper? Now if we had arch, let me grab a small... Okay, so I grab my arch paper here. I'll take the same colors. This is like, I used that side already, but see how it's not going to sit? That's still sitting on there. It's going to soak in faster. It might sit a little bit, but it kind of really soaks in pretty quickly. So it's just kind of sitting in here. That's the difference. I'm just going to lay there. And if you have really cheap paper, like a Canson paper, it's really, if you know, watered down hair color, it's really, this is the difference, see? The difference between the papers. Really soaks it in, really stays on top. See how wet it is, stay on top? So when this dries, it's going to leave all these weird, funky edges. And if you're not looking to do something, serious, then the funky edges are fine. But if you really want to paint a nice pretty flower, you would use hot press or cold press with the arch to paint a beautiful flower. And you could use this. I showed you like that picture I just did from Patreon. You can use the cotton paper from Strathmore. I guess that's cheaper. So you can play around with using your brush in a couple ways. Holding it like this way. What way you can figure out how to make this not sit on the top is just kind of take off all the excess water. If you have less water on this one, then it won't be cumbersome. See, I'm moving on the side, kind of like pushing down the nice point. And I'll create some green using the yellow and peacock blue. A little burnt umber. So you're holding it this way and on the side, and then of course again on the side for stems. So this is just how you play around with holding this particular brush. We're not going to do the tutorial like this. Get used to like moving the brush, pushing down, and creating a leaf. See? You can do a nice cool leaf with the flat brush. See how I can just push down and wiggle? Come back. Push down and come back. Push down and come back. You gotta play with the brushes. Alright, we're done with that little lesson. Let's go back to our paper. You can just do that. I grab a 2H pencil when I sketch out anything. I don't like to see the lines that much. So I'll zoom in a little bit and I'll show you. We're gonna do just straight up, draw right on the paper. So I'm gonna do a flower. It's basically gonna be like think of a half circle, like a smile on the side. And pull it in. Wiggle, wiggle. Paddle there. Connecting here. I'm just kind of spacing out where I want the flower to go. And then I'll do like another, almost like a poppy, or just kind of a loose flower here. Or like a 6-petal flower. See how I'm just kind of wiggling where the flower will go? I'm just going to figure out where I want it to go. Then I put over here maybe a daisy or something. I'm just sketching the spatial area of the flowers. Sometimes it's great not to have a plan. I don't really like to do that. I like to just go with the flow. So then you got to figure out color. Now you can map it out. You can say, I'm going to do pinks and yellows, really hot tones, and then maybe throw in like a nice hot blue color. Sometimes it's good to do that, and sometimes it's nice just to play and see what happens. And I like to play and see what happens. But I am going to just basically go over, like I'll probably do some of the colors that I did here on this painting that I did for Patreon. I love this ultramarine blue and some blushes. The blue and the blush. So we'll start off with the blush. This particular color, rose, mixed in with the yellow, makes a fantastic blush. Put the yellow over here. Woohoo! Look at that. Coral color too. Add more pink and a little blush here. Sorry, clanking, clanking, clanking. I'm gonna have a green close by too. It's always good to have a bunch of colors ready to go. So I'm mixing yellow with the peacock blue. I have you show this in like almost every tutorial I ever have. And I like to put in a little burnt umber. Have you noticed a little theme here, guys? See, when I say you'll figure out your style, that's kind of what you will. And then I'll put that green up here, and I'll add some Prussian blue like I always do to make a deeper green, a little burnt umber. See, we've got that deeper green. Neutral tint on its own would make a nice pretty branch, just gray itself. Then we've got that beautiful ultramarine blue. I'm watering that down. All right, now that we have our colors kind of ready to go, I'm gonna mix up some more of this pretty blush tone. Get more pink. I'm gonna play around with the red too. We will be doing yellow too, but I'm gonna have to find a space for it. Let's grab some rose. All right. So with this paper, I'll be dapping along my paper towel a lot, just to get the excess water off. So, again, swoop, swoop. Kind of doing expressive watercolor, you know, the movements. And you can kind of feel it when you paint it. Now I've drawn in that, see? Whoosh, whoosh. Get the feel. Holding it on its side, bringing it back. This is too square. I'll kind of round it by going back in and filling that in. Don't be afraid to use a flat brush. So we've got that nice color. Now we're going to just leave it like that. We're going to be doing hard edges. We're not doing this bleeding, really serious kind of fun. Again, see? Line this way, line this way. I think this brush lends itself just doing some really cool strokes. And then because the paper is cotton, you see these lines kind of already created from the brush without having to go back in and work it. Now the brush is kind of separating, so it's creating these really cool lines for you. Now I'm not saying make your brush do that. Mine just happened to do that, so I just kind of have to go with the flow. This is a simple flower, I mean, right? I'm gonna go back and use these colors again. I'm always having this paper towel close by. So now I've added a darker color, holding it on its side. Do a couple little marks up top, bring it back. See, a couple of marks up top. I'm kind of like forcing my arm to do that. You like that quick stroke. Get that reddish blush color in here. Right? Again, pull some color here. It's separated, so it's doing this fun line. I take this tip of it, kind of wiggle on the edge. That's how you play with that brush. We'll go back in and we'll add some more color to it. Take some of the yellow now, put it on the side. We can do our yellow daisy. That's so bright, just right out of the tube, so I can kind of mix that blush in there with it, just to wind it down a little bit. I'll add some water, tapping paper towel. Now I'm going to be holding on its edge like this. See? These simple strokes, almost like little V's, creating that daisy petal. Just like that. It's good to play around with different brushes. Now at this point I want to balance some of the other colors, right? Maybe I'll do yellow or orange, I don't know. Hold it on the side. I can make a simple push down, a 4-petal flower. Just like that, just a couple right there. Call it a day. And we're gonna take some of our greens here, get some more yellow here, make it bright. A little burnt umber and a little peacock blue. I'm gonna play around with leaves. Right? Just like I showed you earlier. I'll add a little green. I see I grab a little brown, burnt umber. Grab some of that darker green on the tip. See how I went get that expression going. This is the fun part, guys. That's why you see how I'm using this brush. It creates this like pointy kind of like intense stroke. You can grab some neutral tint, get really dark in here. Don't be afraid. Putting some dark colors around. Don't get afraid, guys. All right, I'm gonna mix up some greens. I'm gonna do some kind of stem going out this way. I don't know, I'm playing around here. Just movement like this. Little branches off that stem. And just push down the color. Again, the movement of it all. That's why I like this brush. I like to play around with it. Now you can also start to play around with the Princeton 8 long round. Right? You can go make a darker blush tone or coral. I grab some of that red in here. Start playing around with this. The tip of this is very pointy. You won't get that in the flat brush. And you start doing these outlines of like this flower here. A little crazy. A little goofy. See? In a deeper color. Can even make it in a little neutral tint. Don't be afraid. I have a lot of nice florals that I've painted for some clients that are outlined in black. I think I have a couple of tutorials I show that. So I mix that red and the blush. See how I'm gonna just use like take a pen and making these crazy kind of fun loose movements. And that's how it gets a little more expressive. And see, I'm just kind of going in here and dipping in the colors. And grab some of this neutral tint. Get a little bit darker. You can even just put that color in here. The center of the flower. Don't be afraid to play with the darker colors. See? Yeah. Me and my sound effects. Same thing with the daisy. I'll make a darker yellow. I'll add some of that, almost like an orange. So that's very watery. I'll have to lift it up with my brush and tap it on the paper towel. Sometimes I do it at the beginning. Sometimes I have to do it when I'm painting it. So again, I'm making the same kind of strokes, just really loose. I could grab some burnt umber, neutral tint, and go in here. Probably the burnt umber would be better than neutral tint at this point. Like a nice brown. Playing around with just adding that in the daisies. Now up here I had thought, I like that blue color like I talked about, which is the ultramarine. It's just watered down. Oh, I had some green in my brush. So you want to make sure your brush is really clean. This color itself, watered down, is just really pretty. So I'm taking this, twisting it on a tip, and just making some, you can make some 4 or 5 petal flowers, just like we did with this. Push down, connect them. Or you can really round them. So just kind of like go like this, make a circle, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Connect it if you want to get a little more serious. I like that color. So all these techniques I'm showing you, just do these colors. You know, you go back and play around with, I have this dark green. I'm mixing up the color again. I kind of lost my dark green. Some brown. Some cascading stems. Kind of crazy. And not this way. Just mixing a bunch of color. Picking up the brown and the neutral tint. Like I said, don't be afraid to play. Kind of do all these movements. You can add some outline around the flowers. Like I said, you can take neutral tint itself and move this color here and make some nice pretty leaves with just this. So push down, connect, push down, connect. See how this brush just creates a different type of leaf? It's not as like intense as the flat wash, right? A little different. I like the flat wash, so now we're gonna do the flat wash. I kind of just like how simple it was creating these little leaves. I'll go back and fix these guys. I don't think I even like those. You see? Just building, building, building. Now that same blue, you can go and grab the deeper, more concentrated ultramarine color. And kind of, if it's still wet, you can kind of bleed it a little bit in the blue. It's not, no big deal. I like to grab that rose color, mix it in with the blue, and make a nice purple. That really pretty. And we can just do some simple purple flowers. See? Nothing special, just kind of like almost like little bees. Out there, and then you can connect it with your greens once again. Making up more green again. Just by twisting your brush and turning it, and then grabbing the edge of it, some deeper green, and just kind of bleeding that color in. This is how I would do expressive. On a cheaper paper, totally different on the arch paper. Get more of a leaf in here. Put another leaf down in here. Stems. Let's play around. Add some more stems coming down this way. Simple leaves. Pushing down. And then go back in with my yellow. It's kind of getting muddy over here. Feel that? Oh, that's a little muddy. It's a little muddy, buddy. See, you got too much green in there. Okay. Grab some of that red. Mix it with my yellow. This paper isn't as forgiving as the arches to make corrections, but it is fun to play with. So I'm grabbing in a darker yellow and just kind of filling in the center on those and the back here. Then I'm going to grab some burnt umber and some neutral tint and start to go into the center of this daisy. You could have left it white, but I'm going to make it darker. Almost like a black-eyed Susan. And go back in here. Take the edge of this and just kind of tap some dots on the outside. And up in here. So just by using this simple brush, I go in here and I can just fill in the center of those yellow flowers. Just spring. Now I want to get this flower a little more intense. I feel like it's okay. And then, as far as the purples, you can go and add a little deeper blues on the edges. You can even try and play around with some purple in here. Kind of just fill that in. And I would add some more leaves. But this flower, I'm standing up and I'm thinking, it's kind of lame. So we're going to have to go back and get some more intensity. Get that pink, that yellow, and that pink. I'll even grab some magenta. It's not playing the way I want to. So I'll add some more paint. Okay, so I've got my pink paint. I made it a little bit darker. Grab some water and I'll just tap it again. I'm just going to go back in here and just make it a little more intense color. I feel like it's too pale. You can go back in, make the color more intense. So that means everything is going to get darker. I can kind of leave this one, or maybe add some darker ones out here on the side and in the center. Might leave some highlights of the lighter color still, but I'm going to go back over it. So now it's even brighter, darker, more intense. And then I'll get even more intense by adding the bright rose again, maybe even some red, magenta, whatever, to make it much darker. Grab a touch of the burnt umber. Go back in here, even still. Now you might have liked it just keeping it light, but I wanted to change it up a little bit. And that's the beauty. You can do whatever you want. And I'll clean up my brush, and I feel like I need to add something down here. And I'll add more of a purple again down here. Just a simple little bunch of little purple flowers. Right in here, you can just go up here and kind of twist your brush. Get a couple little more dots. See? Change it up. And then, of course, here, I'm going to grab some of my green and put some pretty little leaves. I feel like it was missing something. Adding some leaves and a little bit more stems out this way. You kind of have to go through and figure out what you need, what you're missing. Fill it in. I'm making some more darker green, as you can tell. I'm just putting some darker greens in here. You want some variety of greens, as I always do. Dark, light. Okay, mixing up more green paint here. It'll also be a really good idea to mix a lot of paint. As the paper, if it gets, it soaks it up. Put some veins into this. One down here. Just put some leaves kind of floating down here. In your design. And that's how I would do it with this paper. I might go back in and I might add some more things. Maybe another yellow flower over here. Maybe I feel like it's too white in here. I might want to get it. I don't want to get it too messy though. I want to keep it loose and light. I like how it's loose and light now. Like I said, I might take some of my yellow. Go down here and just make a simple little yellow flower. Got too many messy colors here, so you don't want to do me like me, messy palette. Just a bunch of little yellow flowers down here. Just kind of holding it on the side and tapping. Playing around with this, guys. And then with the greens, you can kind of fill in. You can put some more leaves in here, fill in the gaps. If you didn't want to leave that white space in this section. And grab some neutral tint. It's good to play around with maybe closing in a section or not. So this is how I would just do some simple spring designs, and I'll add some little leaves again. Using both brushes, so I can go back in with this one. I could take the neutral tint color, make some fun crazy lines like we had before. We did with the pink, now I can do with the neutral tint color. Go around, grab some brown. Go around some of these. Just adding some more lines. The blue. Just get right in there with the ultramarine, really deep. And I'm just taking the tip of my brush, doing some squiggles around all these flowers up here. And the purple. So it all kind of makes sense, you know. Some flowers have it and some flowers don't. And that's that. A little messy blob here. You can always fix that with a floating something. You see? Never saw it. Just something floating. That's how you fix that. Right? Always adding these little dainty stems. It's kind of fun. And you can add some bigger flowers too. And I might go in here and add some yellow in here. Just to change it up a little bit. You can add some yellow inside of the blue center. Yeah, and there we go, guys. That's how we do some simple spring flowers. You see the difference between the papers, the movement of the brush, a simple brush, and with this kind of paper you can make some great stuff. Doesn't always have to be expensive paper. I wouldn't recommend, see that you see the difference with it with the Canson paper just lays on top, whereas at least this one soaks it in a bit. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. If you haven't hit the bell notification button, please do so you know my tutorial is up. And start to play with a flat wash brush, a little small guy. See, just twisting, turning, tapping, twisting, turning, tapping. And then you go and use another brush for an accent, which I did with the tip of this one. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. Take care, guys, and have a great weekend. I'll speak to you soon.